Well, I think it's time for some more upgrading on my solar panels. In particular, this video is about upgrading the controller. But let me just give you a really quick history of what I've been doing. I use flexible solar panels on my A-frame trailer, which is kind of hidden because it's white and you don't see it with the clouds. But I use it on the top of a A-frame type trailer. And this is my array. It's 2 flexible panels, controller on an aluminum frame. And I do not use glass for the reason of weight, because I can take these 2 panels and lift them with my thumbs. It's very lightweight and it doesn't add weight to my roof, because if the roof's too heavy, I can't lift it up. So flexible panels works for me, no arguments there. That's what's going to work. In any case, let me just give you a brief history of what I've used in the past, because I've been using these for 4 years, and so I know by experience what has worked and what has not. And the first panels, and you've seen these before, are the ones that failed and the ones that cracked. And when I mean crack, I mean the plastic became brittle. And I'm just going to put it right next to my microphone here and show you that if you just take a little bit of it and go like this, you can hear it cracking. That's not flexible, that's brittle. I mean that if you just bend them just slightly, like that, you can see they crack, and you can hear that noise. That's not over bending, that's just minor bending, but they are very, very brittle. That was a fail. However, when I replaced those, when that one died, I had to get one on the road 2 years ago. And that was in California, and that was the All Powers. That's this one here. Now, as you can see, and I want to show you something else here. This one is about, well, let's say 1.5 years old. And here's a piece of black felt, just to show you that it's going blue. So it is starting to fade. It is probably going to fail. It's starting to fail in another way, and that is it's actually separating right here. That definitely is probably going to fail quite quickly. This one here, however, is a later one. I've had it for, when did I put that on? Just about 6 or 7 months ago, and it's from Renogy. And it's an ETFE panel. It's a little bit more flexible. It hasn't really gone that blue. It's tend to have a little bit of a bluish tint to it, but I don't see any fading. I don't see any issues with flexibility. So what I'm going to do for, as far as my frame goes, is I'm going to remove this because I know it's going to fail. And I'm going to put one of these Chinese ETFE panels in its place, right like that. These ones I picked up as auxiliary. I've got 2 of them. They were really cheap, very compatible in design, at least, to the Renogy, but a lot less money. It's worked for me for the last few months, and so I figure, well, why not? Give it a try. So that'll give me 2 ETFE panels on the frame. But what is going to change, and the most important change, is for 4 years I've had the controller on the outside in this box. And if I just open that up there, hopefully you can see it. There's my little controller that I've been using for the last few years. It's a PWM controller. And I'm going to switch that out with an MPPT. Now this always gets me, is I guess there's so many people that depend on acronyms and it drives me nuts. I call them acro nerds, where anything technical has to be an acronym. Because if I told somebody I was going to take a EPT,
Okay, I totally suck at talking acro nerd, but here's my last attempt before giving up.
Is I'm taking a PET and replacing it with an ETFE, and then I'm taking a PVM and I'm replacing it with an MPPT. What does that mean? Nobody knows. It sounds cool to nerds, but it doesn't sound cool to me. I honestly liked having my controller on the outside in a waterproof box. It was just very convenient. It meant the whole frame was integral and all I had to do was plug it into a battery. But now that I'm putting a larger panel and a bigger controller, I can't do this anymore. So I've got to now put the controller where it always should have been, I guess, for most people, inside the trailer. But I have to find the space. Well, it's time for another box opening event because I have a new solar charge controller. This is a ETFE MPPT solar charge controller, and I got a cheat. MPPT stands for maximum power point tracking. I'm never going to remember that or know what it means, but it's irrelevant. We'll talk about the advantages of it later. But before I go into the box opening, I wanted to talk about the controllers I've had in the past and why. The first one I had was a PWM, which is pulse width modulation controller. These are these little guys. They're usually very inexpensive. And if you have a very simple system, couple of panels, and you're putting it on a trailer or something, they're fine. This one was a little undersized. It was 10 amps. It should have been 20, but it worked well for me for the first couple of years. And then I upgraded to an all powers. And this one was 60 bucks. This one was only 25 and it was 20 amps. So I was like, hey, I'll try it. And I have been using that for the last little while. Both of these were small enough that I could put them in little waterproof boxes and leave them on the outside of the trailer. For one reason is I didn't really care what it was saying at night, so I didn't need it in my face. I really only cared what it was doing when it was charging. But these actually didn't really tell me much. You know, little lights going on and off and all that. This really didn't tell me anything. It didn't tell me how many amps it was generating. So MPPT. Why didn't I use MPPT in the first place? Because they're supposed to be more efficient. Money. I'm a budget traveler and nobody's buying me this stuff. It all has to come out of my pocket. So when these first came out, they were extremely expensive, several $100s. When would I ever get my money back in savings? Well, never. Sorry, but it was out of the question. So what's different now? The prices have dropped dramatically. I paid around 150 US dollars for this thing. So that makes it in my budget and it's worth giving it a try. So without further ado, let's open it up. Okay, so it comes with the ETFE Solar Charge Controller Tracer AN series. Most of the reviews on Amazon, and this is what I got it from, was Amazon, have been reasonable, so that seems fair. Instructions. And there's the controller. And it's a big mother. Notice the difference here. I cannot put this on the outside. It has to go in my trailer. It's not going to be in my face because I have a small trailer. So it's going to be hiding probably underneath a bench or something, somewhere where it's got circulation. Looks fine. I won't know until I try it out. But definitely a bonus is that it has a remote meter. That's definitely what I need. And it has to be small enough that I can put it on the side, you know, probably by my bed or by my table, whatever. Oh, well, it's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. Oh, well, simple solution. Don't need that. It's got 4 holes in it. I'll just mount that on the wall. And this should give me all the information I need to know as to how much power, especially amps, that my panels are generating. Now there's a lot of advantages apparently on MPPT, but I'm not going to brag about them until I actually find out for myself. So time for an installation. Well, according to the instructions, where you put it inside the trailer, you're supposed to have 6 inches all around the controller for ventilation purposes. But this is a small fold-up. There's nowhere in this trailer I'm going to get 6 inches or 150 millimeters above and below. Thanks for the recommendation, but it ain't going to happen. Where I think I'm going to put it, and I'm by the front of the trailer where my bed is, and this is the area underneath where I sleep, is I'm going to put it right there. Why? Batteries right here, and the wires coming in from the solar panels come in from the floor right there. So it's the perfect place, or it's at least the best place I can accommodate. There should be enough air circulation around here, and I do have a vent from the outside. If I have to add a fan, I will, but I probably won't.
Well, I won't bore you with all the solar panel mods, except to show you how the all-powers grommets had really rusted. The rest was just removing the controller, unfastening the connectors, and drilling new holes. And yes, drilling holes in your solar panels voids the warranty, but I have no faith in warranties anyway. It only took a few hours.
Weather report says it's going to be a really sunny, hot day today, which is perfect for testing solar panels. But let me show you what I did in the conversion over the last day. I originally had a PET panel, which I believe was going to start to fail anyway, and I replaced it with one of my Chinese ETFE panels, and I brought it right down. I removed the controller. It's not part of the assembly anymore. And the other panel, which was the Renogy ETFE, I simply flipped it 180 degrees, so now all the wires are in the center. I think that'll work a lot better. Other improvements I've made, and don't try this if you're worried about warranties, I actually drilled holes in the middle of the panels to secure them in behind. That way I've got the frame on the outside and I have support in the middle. That should give it less vibration when I'm traveling. So what I'm going to do, instead of just putting it on the trailer and hoping it works, I'm going to do a bench test. So I'm going to set it up on sawhorse. I don't have enough sun right now, it's just a partial sun, but I've got the controller hooked up to an old battery I had, which still works. It just doesn't hold enough charge for me to use on the trailer. But as you can see, it is actually charging. Everything's working. I have it rigged up in parallel right now. What I want to do is compare parallel to series. It's just going to be another hour, and I think I'll have full sunlight, and we'll test it out. We'll see what the difference is. And just so you get a clearer picture of what happens, I've got my camcorder pointed at the remote meter so you'll see the changes in readings. And what you should see right now, let me just go this so you know it's synced, is you see the battery charge. I don't have the panels plugged in, so it says it's on nighttime mode. But let me reach down. Oh, couldn't have put it in a more awkward spot. And plug in the panels. See what happens. You see how it immediately went to 20.3 volts. It's gone down, it's changed. And now it's reading 4.54. But if you notice, my head's putting a shadow on the panels. So I will move out of the way. And there's the correct reading in sunlight, 6.6 amps, 13.5 volts. Now this is not optimum sunlight because, and let me just show you, if I take and move the panels towards the sun like that, you should see that it's gone up. Now I can't see it right now because I'm at the opposite end, but the point being is the angle of the sun, and whether you point it directly or not, should have changed the amount of current you are actually generating. Okay, so that's pretty good. 6.3 amps, and you can see that the panel is doing 16.8 volts, 5.2 amps, but the battery is getting charged more amps. That's because the controller is actually making it more efficient and delivering more amps. It's taking that excess voltage and converting it to amps, which is exactly what I want. So far, so good. Now that is parallel. Let's see what happens when I hook it up to series.
Having all the connectors in a central area makes it easy to switch from parallel to series when desired. Also note the braces and pads underneath to keep the panels firm.
So now it's wired in series. What's the difference? We'll plug it in and find out. Whoa, 42.5 volts right at the beginning, no amps. Then it's adjusted 15.8 volts, 3.1 amps, but the big difference is what's happening at the battery. 7.1 amps will just change to 6.9, but interesting. Now, one other thing to note about being in series instead of parallel is that if one of the panels is blocked, you don't have anything. For example, if I take my auxiliary panel and just use it for shade, watch what happens. There you go, 0 amps. You have no power whatsoever when one's blocked. So that's something to consider. Or if there's a fault in one of your panels, you've got nothing. So series, parallel, they both have their advantages and disadvantages, but I'm sort of leaning towards parallel at this point. So I've got it back in parallel, but I did want to do one experiment because I did cover up partially one panel in series. Let's see what happens when I do it in parallel. Give it a second. And there you go. I still have current. I'm still getting amps. A lot less, 4.2 amps, but I'm still getting amps the same. So if you're in conditions where you might have a shadow or a tree or anything, a telephone pole, shading your panels or one of them, I'm more inclined to say just keep it parallel. Okay, well, that's enough for the bench test. I think it's time has come to get it on the trailer. So I'm going to load the panels on now. Well, as for the remote meter, I just made a hole in my kitchen counter just below where the stove is. So it fits right in there. 4 screws, and I'm good to go. The overhang protects it. It's nice and slim. I didn't need that extremely big case for it. And while lying down reading a book, I can monitor my solar panels. Perfect spot.
While installing the controller, I did adjust the location to give more airspace to the sides. I'm confident it'll do fine in this location, and it didn't compromise my cabin space.
Well, there it is, folks. The new monitor for my MPPT controller. Seems to work fine. It's generating 6.3 amps right now, which sounds pretty good because it's almost sunset. So I'm happy with it. It's generating power and seems to be doing everything I'd hoped it would do. But I'm not really going to know anything until I've had a chance to properly test it out, camp a little bit, and of course I'll put regular updates in some of my videos. I know this hasn't been the definitive video on MPPT controllers because I'm not going to BS you. I don't know. I'm learning this all for myself, and I'm sure there's other videos that'll help you if you really want to know. But you can also look in the description of this video because I put an Amazon link, not only because I'm an affiliate, yes, that works for me, but it gives you the information and you can check out the reviews, so have a look. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video and you'll check out my other ones as well. And happy camping.